Yo, what's good, everybody? I hope everything is going great for you all. I can see the chat already. Nasty. We got Zach. We got Kraus in the house. I saw Steve, Jason, P, Just Work HVAC, Rudy, and a few others. Neil, Eddie. What's up, everybody? So today on the show, yes, Steve. Today on the show, we have the man behind everybody's favorite products, Refrigeration Technologies. Uh, like Steve said, is the best. Prove me wrong. You got that right. So please welcome John Pastorello. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you for your, taking the time out of your schedule and being on my little podcast here.
Oh, I love doing podcasts. Anytime I can get to talk to techs out in the field, that's a treat for me.
Oh, that's awesome. You've been very innovative with the everything you guys do at Refrigeration Technologies. You guys have been around for a very long time now. Top notch, top quality products. A lot of the guys here love the product. Whether that's the cleaners, the wet rag, putty. I could name a whole bunch of them, and I was gonna say I could probably do an episode on each one uh, in itself, but you know, we got you here today. We'll talk about as much as we can.
Love to.
How's it? How is it where you're at? The weather and all that.
It started to get very cool to where we were looking at firing up the heaters, but then
Oh,
today it
really?
just broke out. Today it just broke out with mid 90s, and that's typical Southern California. We'll go into a cool, hot, all the way even through December.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in Texas. We still deal with that 100-degree weather, and hopefully it's over soon. I want to get that fall and winter weather.
We
So
all need a break.
yeah. So for anybody who I don't know, is living under a rock. Like I said, is John Pastorello. He is the man behind Refrigeration Technologies. But you have a pretty interesting history and stuff that you did before. So, were you in the trades before you were, head of Refrigeration Technologies? Were you actually in the field?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I started out going to college because that is what you were supposed to do after you graduate from high school. And I was a biology chemistry major. And about my second year in college, I got a job at a lab. I'd go to college during the day, and I had a swing shift job from like 4 to midnight, and so I could earn some bucks and make a living. And that lab fell in hard times, and I was out of a job, so I fell into air conditioning company that was really massive, and they were just starting to retrofit all these old houses with air conditioning. And I got on an installation crew, and once I got out in in the open air and the sunshine and uh, working on air conditioning, installing, cutting in, adding on. Um, I loved it, and the pay was a lot better than working in a lab. It's something they don't teach you in college.
No.
No, and so I eventually got my contractor's license, started my own business, did air conditioning, mostly refrigeration, for about 17 years. And then I got back into developing chemicals uh, for my own personal use, really.
Hmm.
And I hit on a bubble leak detector that all my tech buddies really liked, and they talked me into selling it. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's really good advice on their part.
Yeah, yeah,
So, okay, so you were in the HVAC trade. I mean, hence it's in the name, Refrigeration Technologies,
yeah.
as anybody would guess. And I was just wondering, but I did hear you on some podcasts, and I thought it was really interesting that so you basically were a chemist first. You went through the whole college ordeal, and then you got into the trades to make more money because you weren't making ends meet, so to speak, on your previous endeavor. And then the two worlds kind of collide there because you're this chemist in HVAC, and you're out there trying to solve the problems that you face in the field, which that's, the best way that, or the best products we get are from those kinds of situations. So I know you mentioned the Big Blue. Was that your first product that you came up with?
Yes, definitely. I had trouble finding leaks,
Don't we all?
and I'd run into these problems where we're talking about mid 70s. Electronic leak detectors were kind of flaky.
Yeah.
They'd sense a leak, but you don't know if it was a false reading or not. And so you go to try and pinpoint with bubbles, and the quality of the bubble solutions out there were terrible. And so I didn't know if the electronic was giving a false reading or the bubble solution wasn't up to par. And I found out a little of both. Uh, More so, the bubble solutions were pretty bad. And so I set out to, I think with doing a little research in the library, I could come up with something that made better bubbles than what we were buying at the wholesale house.
Hmm. Yeah, and even like you said, even nowadays, the technology with the whole electronic leak detectors, you can only trust them so much. And I like to have a visual, which is with my Big Blue bubbles, because once you get that visual, you can confirm it. You can show or see where it is exactly, and how bad it is, how small it is. Because yeah, let me tell you from experience, I've had false, readings from a leak detector that goes off or may go a little haywire at times. But if you put those bubbles on there, you know for sure where that leak is. And even if I have a good leak detector, I like to always confirm it with the Big Blue. And I always tell people you're gonna need both. They go hand in hand nowadays. I mean, you might have big equipment where you need to narrow it down, and then once you narrow it down, you can get that Big Blue in there and find it fairly simple.
You
Um,
learned how to use it. A lot of technicians out there still really don't know how to use it, and my advice would be to apply it as a solid flat liquid, not as
yeah.
a spray foam. Solid flat liquid around all your joints or all your areas you suspect, and then wait, because large leaks are going to throw off bubbles immediately, but the small,
Hmm.
small, tiny leaks are going to build and build and build until you can visually see what I call foam cocoons, or clusters of tiny little bubbles that develop underneath threaded fittings and flare fittings
Yeah.
and things of that nature. So it's a lot of leak detection is observation and paying attention and going back and looking at things that you've sprayed to see if any bubbles have started to come up. So, it's an art in itself, leak detection.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you get better at it with experience, obviously. But that's something that I learned from watching other guys like Chris Stevens does a good job of mentioning it over and over. Do not spray it, too hard. You gotta get that nice little stream, get it on there,
Mhm.
like you said, solid, and then wait. You gotta have patience too, because I've had it to where I'm like, I'm trying to wrap my brain around it. Like, I know I have a leak, but I can't find it. And then you go to all the suspect places, and then you want to leave it on there for like something like 15 minutes. Go do something else. Go check around something else, and then come back to it. You're gonna see, like you said, those little foam areas, those little micro bubbles, because you're gonna pick up micro leaks with this. And I didn't believe it when I heard about it, and then I finally saw it, because I started getting a lot of these micro leaks and like evaporator coils and the U bends on the end. Like they don't shoot out refrigerant, but you're gonna have all these little micro leaks, these little pinholes that over time, they're gonna call you because it's low on charge. So I was really impressed with that part, but you gotta have patience.
Patience to avoid the callback and
Exactly.
the pissed off customer. Why can't you fix it the first time?
We've all had those discussions, those experiences, and you never want to have those again. Uh, yeah. So Big Blue is a must. I love that product. And you basically, like you said, you were looking for, well, you needed help finding your leaks. You didn't have any good products on the market, and what is it? The chemist in you just wants to go and uh, kind of make your own concoction and figure it out, or figure out a better product.
Yeah, I found that the toy bubble solution worked better than the stuff that you bought in the supply house. And the toy bubbles were kind of watery, weak, thin shell bubbles, and
Yeah.
uh, wasn't. But they were a little better than what you bought at the wholesale house. And so I just started going to pounding the libraries and researching the chemistry on foams and bubbles. And I'd go to the patent office and look and see what there were out there in leak detection fluids, and was able to start bringing in samples of raw materials
Hmm.
to try and make that ultimate bubble solution. Uh, and in fact, I have something special for you here. This
What you got?
is the first Big Blue. Let me see here.
Is that like the first one you had on the market?
Yes. Yeah.
Ultra sensitive leak detector solution.
Yeah. The smaller the leak, the bigger the bubble.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I got the name ultra sensitive off of a pack of condoms. So, you
Is
know,
that what you called it at first? It wasn't Refrigeration Technologies?
no, it wasn't. It was still Refrigeration Technologies,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was. I didn't. I didn't
But
have any marketing experience,
yeah.
and a marketing gentleman from my little league, looked at it and he says, ultra sensitive is descriptive. You need to give it a name, a personality,
Hmm.
a catchphrase that everybody will um, identify it with, like Kleenex,
Yeah.
Coke, you know, simple. So I named it after IBM. IBM at the time was the big stock at the time, and I was in the stock market. And IBM was called Big Blue. It was a nickname.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Uh, was it blue on purpose, or is that just how it comes out?
No, it's died. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think I had a really old one in somewhere, or my dad had one, or somebody had one, and it was like it was starting to discolor and stuff.
Sure,
So I was
sure.
wondering about that.
Yeah. Sunlight bleaches out colors. Time and heat bleaches out colors.
Well, you
Um,
can just imagine how old that one was for it to
yeah,
change its
yeah,
color.
yeah.
Which reminds me, I actually had seen or we had, or I kept the bottle actually. It was a retro. It was the old Black Label. I believe you already had the Viper on it, but I had it. I thought it was cool, and I was using it at work, and I would just refill it because I buy the gallon to refill the bottles, and then I was using it, and I left it behind at a restaurant one time, and I go back, and they're like, "Oh, we had to throw it away. I'm sorry." I'm like, "Dude, that was my retro bottle." I was so upset. And then I had seen another one on the shelf at our Johnstone, and I was like kind of kicking myself in the butt because I didn't buy it. But it was another retro one, but it had like a Superman logo, I believe.
Oh yeah, that was our super blue. That's a low temperature.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, it's got a lot of glycol in it, and that's so it won't freeze overnight in your truck. It's not for finding leaks in freezers. You know, it's so it
Oh,
doesn't.
okay. Is that
Yeah.
so? Was that what the Sub Zero one is now, or is it different?
Yes. Yes, it's the same. Yeah. Yeah. So when I first came out with leak detector, we did an ASHRAE show, 1987, in Chicago, and the first questions contractors would ask me is, "Will it freeze overnight in the truck?" And I just, being from California, well, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it will. And they say, "Well, we can't use it." go, what's the problem with like thawing it out and using it? No, they don't want it to freeze. So I came out with, I had Big Blue, and then about a year later, I was able to work in enough antifreeze, propylene glycol food grade, so it wouldn't freeze overnight in the trucks. And still, for the cost effectiveness, you buy the regular Big Blue and use that.
Yeah.
Unless you don't want it to freeze overnight in the truck. And some
Well,
people, that's all they buy is the Sub-Zero.
oh, really? Well, I
Yeah,
mean, it's there if you need it, I guess. But
yeah,
so, Super Blue is essentially Sub-Zero.
yeah. We changed the name when we did a rebranding.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And then you made the comment. It's not for freezers, right? It's because
Yeah, people think it's yeah, yeah,
I kind of thought the same thing when I saw it.
yeah, yeah. If you're looking for leaks in a freezer, you should bring up your pressures, bring up your temperatures, even maybe
Yeah.
throw in the coil into defrost to bring up the temperatures so you get some pressure on there to bring up a leak. And then you can use a regular water-based leak detector.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was guilty of taking that Sub-Zero in the freezer and trying it out.
Okay. That's why
But
you have me on, so you know all the real story.
sometimes we need to know, like, from the people that make the products, like how do we use your product? Uh,
Yeah. Well, there's
everything.
directions, but no, we all read directions, right?
I should have read them before the show. Thanks. uh, okay, so yeah, I was just gonna ask you about the Sub-Zero one because that one, I guess, it's a unique product if you need it in an area where like your truck stock would freeze over or something.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So what about, I wanted to talk about a little bit about Nylog as well, because I feel like there's always like a new use for it that techs find, and I'm not sure, like, when you brought it to market, what was it specifically for? Because I've heard you say that I think what you intended it for is like different from what people are using it for now.
No, but people have found different ways to use it.
Okay.
So I never thought of it as coating. If you're pulling deep vacuums, to coat the O-rings on the end of the hoses
Mm-hmm.
to make a positive seal for pulling vacuums. Something I never thought of. But the people that use Nylog know why they use it and have found their own creative ways of where to use it and how to use it.
Is it, and it is a sealant, but is it okay to put on threads? Because some people have their own thing, like where they shouldn't use it here or they should use it there. How would you recommend using Nylog?
Um, Basically, I was taught refrigeration, and I was told that you should never put on anything on a gasket or a thread other than oil.
Right.
So, in other words, Nylog is an oil, and anywhere you would put oil, gaskets,
Mm-hmm.
threads, is where you want to use it. It is basically an assembly lubricant. It's not a glue, of course, you know that.
Yeah.
And which was one of the unique aspects of it, because if it gets into the system, and it will get into the system, just from screwing the joints together and a little bit gets into the system,
Sure.
it's just going to be part of the oil phase.
So there's no damage to the system. There's nothing going to clog up, because I know we put them on like flares and threads here and there, and like you said, eventually some of it's going to get through.
Yeah. Let me give a little science behind sealants, thread sealants.
Okay.
Thread sealants are specific to trades and specific to applications. If you're working on hydraulic systems, there are specific sealants, thread sealants, for using only on hydraulic systems. That's because if it gets into the system, it can disrupt the master cylinder, etc. Hydraulic systems is one. Pneumatics is another. Air systems. People who work on air brakes on big rig trucks
Mm-hmm.
have a specific thread sealant they use for air brakes. And you wouldn't want to use anything other than that because you can cause a brake system to go out on a big rig. And then you have get into some exotic stuff like nuclear grade thread sealant, which is basically used at nuclear power plants. And it's a thread sealant that can tolerate super high steam temperatures, and it's not affected by radiation. And those sealants are usually made out of graphite.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have our trade. And we never really had a sealant that was specific for our trade. What we did was we borrowed products from the plumbing industry that they use for
Yes.
gas and for water, and maybe even some automotive sealants. That's what we did until Nylog. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to develop a specific, trade-specific sealant that only to use on our types of systems we work.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people understand that like you said, it's oil. It's like POE oil. So it can be safely used, and like you said, it's specific to our trade because that's what we deal with. Because I worked with my dad, and my dad does uh like the hot side, so he does like cooking equipment. He deals with a lot of gas fittings. So to him, like when I was with him, it's always, grab the pipe dough, grab the Loctite. Um, and like when I started in the HVAC trade, I was like, what do we have, that's for us? So for us, it would be Nylog. Um, and I've seen the other ones. I've seen like the blue ones that are I think it's Loctite as well, or leak seal. I don't know what they call it, but a lot of people would put them on the caps for the service ports, and those would harden, and it would be such a pain to get those off. You'd need like channel locks and everything to pry them off because they would harden. But Nylog is it never hardens. It's like it's an oil. It's just a thicker kind, right?
Yeah, it's just a POE oil that's really sticky and tacky, and has that viscosity. So it makes
Is
a
that what you
nice
that's what you
seal.
show that's what you show on the at the expos, right? That
Yeah, we have
machine.
a little wheel that goes around, and it yeah.
We were pretty amazed with that because me and my brother went out to the AHR Expo, and we just stood there and we're watching it for a while.
Yeah, people like to put their hands in it too.
I
So we
saw that.
carry our wipes alongside. So
Well, that's good. That's good marketing too for you guys. It's like, well,
yeah,
check out.
it's one of those displays. They walk by and they go, it's a
Yeah,
W2F, WTF. What the fuck is that? And it draws people in, and then you give them the pitch. And of course, with trade shows, you got to improve the booth traffic, and that's always going to be found on one of our corners.
and then right there with the wipes, you can clean your hand. And I have the wipes too. Those things are great, and they're not water. Are they water? They're not water based, right?
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are. Okay, I got it
Hmm.
backwards. But uh, I've used those for a lot of different things after work, and my hands come out like super squeaky clean afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, they have oils, essential oils in there, because most detergents will dry your skin out.
Right,
So
right.
there's essential oils in there that rehydrate your skin, put the natural oils back into your skin.
Yeah, it's a good one too. If you guys didn't know, they make awesome, essentially wet wipes that you can like my hands will be covered in either grease or just black from laying around on the floor and stuff, and I would go and just scrub all of my arms and get all that stuff off without having to have like a sink or anything near me. It's just you grab a wipe and you clean it off. um, and that little rotating machine, that's something that I don't know if it's a patent of yours or it's something that you came up with.
Um, what I used to do is I used to have a bowl of Nylog in front of me at a trade show, and I had gloves, and I used to grab the Nylog and pull it up like a sheet and then put it back in. And I got tired of doing this at a trade show. And
Yeah.
so I developed this wheel that would do it. And, you know, saved a lot of labor. And I actually did file a patent on that wheel because
Mm-hmm.
one trade show we were in a booth right next to Appion, and one of the guys from Appion comes over and says, "You got a patent on that display?" And I said, "No." He says, and I said, then I backed up and I said, "Well, I have one pending to
Mm.
cover my ass."
Yeah.
And he says, "That's good." He says, "There's just people walking around the show looking to patent other people's products." And he says, "That would be something prime." So when I got back from that ASHRAE show, I immediately got a hold of the patent attorney. I said, "Listen, we got to patent this." So
For sure, because that is a something you want when you're walking around. It catches your eye, and like I said, we stood in front of it for a little bit because we're just like in awe of it, and it's a really cool display, and it attracts people. So you out there solving more problems. You didn't want to be dipping your hands in the Nylog, so you made your own little contraption over there.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, I think somebody mentioned Nylog White. That's
yes,
the other one that you. Is that one newer?
yes, it is. It
Because
is.
yeah, oh yeah, that one just came out a while
Yeah,
back.
that's not for refrigeration systems.
Yeah,
Okay, it's got Teflon in it. It's got silicone, things you don't want inside of a refrigeration system. And that's basically for air, water, gas, and glycol. And we
yeah,
have
Jay.
problems. We have problems here with glycol leaks when we pump. And I was using silicone grease, and that was working pretty good. And I just light bulb went off, and I said, "Well, you know what? Why don't we build something around silicone oil and silicone grease, actually?" And we fortified it with Teflon and sent it out and had a lot of helium leak rates done on it, leak testing done on it, and turned out fantastic. And it's an up and coming product. And we were just talking gasket and thread sealant, so it's not like it's really a wow product. Wow, it's not like a leak detector. Wow, oh, gasket thread sealant. Who cares? But Nylog took 15, 20 years before it really became popular. So
Right,
usually a
and
product takes about 5 years to gain a footing, and there's a lot of other similar products out there. So we just
sure,
thought we would add it to the line.
sure, and it's going to be up to par with the other refrigeration technologies as far as like quality and all that, which is why I
Yeah,
tend
it's
to
sticky and
tend
it's gooey.
which is why I tend to reach for the refrigeration technologies. And if my supply house, for some reason, doesn't have it because they're kind of iffy on the things that they carry, I'll go to True Tech Tools and order myself, a whole batch of stuff. Jason here mentioned that he uses a Nylog White for the for glycol systems.
Oh, that's
Helps
great.
helps helps stops the weeping, and it's a
Yeah,
fantastic product.
yeah. That's the problem we were having. Just little dribbles, little buildup of glycol around fittings, around pump fittings and things. And we got tired of wiping them all down.
Speaking of other uses, Total Tech says he's Nylog fixed the slipping reverse gear in my transmission.
We don't recommend it for anything but air conditioning and refrigeration
It
systems.
We can only recommend for HVAC, right?
Yeah, I have an old friend that claimed to use it as a personal lube, and I go, come on, no, no, no.
Oh,
That
you
was
never know.
Nylog Red, and
Oh yeah, you have the Nylog red and the Nylog blue, I believe.
correct,
Uh,
correct.
just one's POE, one's I'm assuming
Mineral
mineral.
oil.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brian Sanders, I appreciate the super chat. Just got off work. Another great guest. Refrigeration Technologies rocks.
Thank you.
I'm telling you. Did you have a hard time getting into like supply houses? You know, when you, I don't know, when you started, or maybe even now.
Very tough time. Yeah. We exhibited Big Blue in 1987 in Chicago at a big ash race show. We just had a little small little 10-foot booth, and I brought in an old condensing unit with leaks, and I demonstrated Big Blue and show how nice and fluffy and big the bubbles got. And then I cleaned that joint off and sprayed it down with alcohol and cleaned it all up. And then I would use competitors' dauber bottle type leak detector and show that their bubbles would just come up and just boop, pop and not sustain. And of course, I had duct tape around all these competitor bottles, and
Yeah.
people knew what they were because of the size and the style of the cap and dabber. But and we generated a lot of interest, and we started to get into some wholesale markets. But yeah, it's hard with just one product to break into this industry. It's even harder now. Back when I started in '87, wholesalers weren't computerized.
Yeah.
All their invoices were handwritten, and then someone would type it up and then send out your statements or your invoices. Now with the computer programming, they don't wholesalers don't order unless they see in their history how well it sells and how much they need every month so they can replenish their stock. And if you don't have no history, then they stop buying your product. So
Gotcha.
but luckily we're over that hump now.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, or you start from essentially nothing or the bottom, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to work your way into stuff. I
If
just,
I was to start right now with a product like that, I would get nowhere fast. It would take lots and lots of money of advertising and promotion to launch something like that. Where back in '87 we did it on a dime, you know.
yeah, but now you have Instagram and all these like YouTube, like here on YouTube. If the
Oh yeah,
product is
fantastic.
if the product is good, I think it speaks for itself most of the time, because uh like we're the ones out there using it. Like if we don't like it, we're not going to use it. But Jason here, Viper is the best cleaner on the market. Refrigeration tech for life. Uh,
Thank you, Jason. He's a
yeah,
Facebook friend of mine.
yeah. Jason's everywhere. He's a smart guy. He does a lot of great work,
Oh,
and
he works on the tiny stuff. Yeah.
the tiny stuff. uh, but yeah, like I feel like it speaks for itself. And people on Instagram, we want to show our work and show what we do, and I think that's been good for you. And I don't know if you had started now, and if it was the quality that it is now, I think social media is a big part of it now. But um, you also have the cleaners, the Venom packs. I'm a big fan of those too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been going really well for it. It's a different type of concept for people to adapt. Uh, we felt that it's the future. The days of selling cleaners of any type in a big gallon jug, even though it's a concentrate, um,
I
those
hated
are
it.
gone. Those are
Yeah,
gone.
once you came out with the Venom packs, I was like, forget all those gallon jugs that I had. I'm
Yeah,
strictly on the Venom packs now.
yeah, yeah. It's slowly. It takes 5, 6, 8 years for a product to really get out there and get a foothold. Where because people are creatures of habit, especially technicians walk into a supply house, they walk over to the coil cleaners, and they're going to get what they normally buy. They're not going to even look
Yeah.
around and see what's new. They just no. Now we like it because the contractors go there and they should just say, look for the one with the snake.
Mm-hmm.
And branding has rebranding really has helped promote our products, give it more visibility, give it more of an identity.
Is that what that was? Because I was gonna ask you about the Viper name. Is that just when you rebranded? Is that what you guys came up with?
Well, actually, I had this aerosol that I was
Okay.
developing, and I was developing a coil cleaner, an aerosol coil cleaner that would replace the coil blasters, because I remember using the coil blasters, and once you sprayed that stuff in a coil, you'd have to bail out because the odor was just overwhelming. It would overtake you. It would overtake anybody else in the room. And if you were
Mm-hmm.
working in a kitchen, it was basically a refrigerant, and it hit those burners, and you produce that phosphine gas, and you'd have to empty out the whole damn restaurant. So I was coming out with an aerosol cleaner that would replace the coil blasters. So I knew I wanted a pin spray, and I wanted the foaming effect, the foam expansion. So I
Mm-hmm.
worked on that, and we came out with that in 2000, 2001. And what it reminded me of the pin spray and the foaming, it reminded me of a snake spewing venom.
Okay.
So I said, yeah, let's call it Viper. Put a snake on there with the venom coming out of his mouth and onto a coil, and then it became really popular.
Yeah.
People liked the way it performed. They liked the way it cleaned, and they got used to the pin spray. Actually,
Mm.
out there, don't spray from a distance. Get as close into the coil as you can, and get
Yeah.
in there and let it penetrate. And that took off, and so that's where people say, "Yeah, get the coil cleaner with the snake." So feedback was coming back to us. They said,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay," and we had other coil cleaners, but they were all different names, and we said, "Let's name everything Viper,"
Got it.
and tied it all in.
So the Viper name started with the aerosol can.
Yes.
Gotcha. And yeah, I had to kind of learn how to use that one too, coming from other brands because we've tried other ones, and I was just never like super happy to use them until I found yours, and then the phone. I once I dialed it in because, like you said, you have to be a little bit closer, and you gotta to really get that foaming action. But once I saw it, I was like, whoa! Like you don't even have to put a whole lot. I mean, sometimes I use the whole can, but like honestly, you don't have to put that much. You can go over it a few times, and it's gonna bring out all that dirt from when it hits. It foams up and it pushes out.
Yeah, it's a very nice high performance cleaner too. It's a very good degreaser.
It works great because I work in kitchens and that stuff. I don't really like using any harsh chemicals, and the aerosol works really great on a lot of the under counter stuff that I work on, all the prep coolers, all the small equipment, and I strictly use that aerosol can now
Yeah.
for indoors.
Now condenser coils, you want to take a little spray bottle of water
Uh
after
huh.
the foam dies down. That Viper aerosol, in fact, all our Viper cleaners have a rinse aid in them. So once the
Yeah.
foam dies down, it's a rinse aid like you would use in your dishwasher. It makes the dishes and glasses streak free, uh, uh, causes the water sheet right off. Take a small spray bottle of water and just rinse down the detergent, catch it on a little rag or whatever, and that's
Yeah.
all you need.
Yeah. I tend to because on like you said on the condenser, I tend to spray it for all these small equipment, and I'll give it a rinse off. But if you're using it on something like an evaporator coil, that should be self rinsing.
Yeah, it should be if it's producing condensate.
Gotcha.
Hopefully it's charged correctly.
uh, yeah, and here Jason, when he was at his local Johnstone, they didn't have your products. He said that he mentioned it to them. They bought into it, and then now it's their best selling brand in their store.
Yeah, he ought
That's
to
the way
get a
to go.
kickback on that.
That's
Yeah.
what I try to do that at mine too, but my local Johnstone does carry a lot of your stuff, not everything. Sometimes I'm like, hey, can you bring this in? Can you bring that in? I'm trying to do that for other brands that I like as well. Because sometimes I walk in there and they kind of push whatever it is that they're trying to push, or they have a lot of the blue, like you said, the gallon jugs in the front. That's the first thing you see, and you're by habit you're gonna grab it. So every time I see that, I'm like, what the hell is this, guys? Bring me the venom packs, or whatever it is that I'm looking for. And I guess, like you said, it's habit, it's old school. That's what they have. I'm not a big fan of the blue brighteners anymore. I used to carry nothing but the blue stuff, the coil cleaner, and I learned right away that once that gets on your hands, God forbid. I think Pat Finley had said that he got it in his eyes one time. One
Oh
of the
no.
Yeah, one of the blue cleaners, and that stuff is very dangerous.
Yeah. People out there, please heed my advice. Don't make the blue cleaners your go-to coil cleaner. You don't need them on every job. You only need them for those extremely neglected greasy coils on restaurants. You
Yeah.
don't need it to do your neighbor's condensing unit.
No.
Stick with the high performance detergents that are not going to burn when you get it on you. It's not going to kill the plants and everything else around the yards.
Oh yeah,
It's
the
not going to
grass.
take the roofing material off.
Hmm.
Clean doesn't necessarily mean bright and shiny. Bright and shiny only means you've removed aluminum, and within 2 weeks, that oxidation returns, and it's back to dull old battleship gray.
Yeah, because that one, like it's very harsh. It'll take off if you leave it on too long. That's another issue as well with that one. If you get it on yourself, get in. If it spills in your van, I've had that happen. It's a nightmare. So
Yeah,
I try to stick to the like I use the venom packs, so I stick to the micro channel safe one, which is the yellow one, and that does really well on honestly anything, even the tough coils that I've run into. So like you said, I think the blue one should really be like a last resort. It's not one that you want to use on a day-to-day basis. But when I started, like I didn't know any better, and that's what they pushed. That's what they put right by the door as you walk in is the blue stuff. And I learned the hard way. I got it on myself plenty of times, and I just thought like there has to be a better way. So that was one thing that kind of caught my eye. I know Ashley on the Refrigeration Technologies social media accounts is trying to bring awareness to your safety labels, that you're food safe. But that's one of the things that caught my eye browsing around for something better is that you guys, I mean, you yourself being a chemist, you know what goes into these products, but trying to be as safe as you can, chemical wise, or food safety, all of that you took into consideration when making these products.
yeah, exactly. Because I used to do refrigeration. I used to do tons of
Yeah.
restaurant work, and and Ashley does a real good job out there in training contractors to stay away from the blue,
Yeah.
go with the safer products that we make. And she's explained it really, really good on a lot of podcasts. We really like Ashley, and it's a matter of trying to transform the trade into thinking safe,
Yes.
working safe, and not resorting to the blue brighteners on every job. Um, I don't care if I never sell another blue coil cleaner in my line. I'd rather see people switch over to the non-hazardous stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to have that product in your line because some people do like it, but like you said, like I use the venom pack, so the micro channel safe one. super good, doesn't harm anything around you or yourself, too
Yeah.
much. And
The only
it
reason we have it in the line is because I was the first guy to come out with an alkaline foaming brightener. And I
That's right.
teamed it up with a foam gun, and that was back in 89, 90. And I came out with the gun, and at that time, everyone was using acid, pink
Yeah.
acid.
Yeah, somebody
And,
mentioned that in the chat.
yeah. And the pink acid will hit that aluminum and fizzle and foam. Um, I was able to do the same, get the same effect even better with an alkaline version, kind of a takeoff on easy off oven cleaners, uh,
Hmm.
and got the nice foaming effect. Got the nice foaming effect out of the gun. I envision walking up to a coil like a firefighter putting out a fire. Just have a foam gun in your hand and just fill it full of foam. Let it die down, rinse and go.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason we have it. You know, after I
True.
came out with it in 89, 90, um, people sourced where I was getting my foam gun, and they chemically analyzed the chemicals I was using, and
Hmm.
they all came out with their own version. And I didn't have enough distribution and enough market share out there to make an impact, but the more established, the bigger chemical companies already had an established wholesale distribution chain. So they kind of like snuffed me out of the market as I was breaking ground with this new product.
Yeah. Jason mentioned the pink death coil cleaner. I assume that's what he's referring to.
Yeah,
Is that the pink stuff?
I,
uh,
I'm shocked to hear that some people out there still use it and swear by it.
oh, really?
You know? Oh yeah,
So you actually came up with that foam cannon that we all. I love that thing. I
yeah. I
I,
call
I
it a
carry
foam gun. Yeah,
foam gun. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, I've had it. I recently had, like I said, when I got into the trade, there was another brand at our supply house, and then I eventually switched over to everything that you guys do now. And that thing, it foams up really nice. You have a nice control on your dial for whatever ratio you want to put. And I had a video, I believe it's in the intro of this live stream, where I went to town on I was cleaning a micro channel, and that whole inside was just white and foamy. And you let it sit there for a little bit, it does really well cleaning the coils, and then you go about your business and rinse it off. You guys are, well, you came up with the blue brightener, you said, with the foam gun, right?
yeah. It wasn't blue at the time. It was actually in a solid white bottle,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and it goes way way back.
So,
And
so just so everybody knows in the chat, like, a lot of the stuff is stuff that you came up with at the time, which was, like I said, being innovative, solving problems that you found out in the field. And then what happens with anything that is popular, it's often imitated. So
yes,
just so you know, this is the original, basically everything.
yeah. That's why all leak detectors are blue, and they come in a spray bottle now instead of a little dabber bottle.
I know. I have one of your the dabber ones, but it's just in case I can't get it with the spray bottle or something. I really don't like using those. That's what I had
I
too
don't
when
like
I when
filling
I
them.
started. Yeah, and that's what I had when I started too, and I was like, I don't know about this. And then, obviously you go about, looking in the store, finding different brands, and then, finally settled on yours because of the whole micro leaks that I was running into, and I finally figured out that if I leave it there long enough, it'll show me all that. So,
It'll
you
do
know,
it. Yeah, I didn't come out with the dabber till about 15, 20 years later because um, people would come up to us and say, well, why don't you put it in a dabber bottle? And people would tell me that they were buying Big Blue in gallons and emptying out a dabber bottle and filling it with Big Blue. And I said, okay. And I asked them why. It's just, well, it fits in the tool bag and they can carry it around in their pocket. Okay, not the big spray ball. So okay, we came out with the dabber style, and I added a little telescopic dauber to it to make it
Yeah,
give it a little
that's a nice
uniqueness.
touch. That's a nice touch. The
Yeah.
telescopic end that you have on there, but I have
There's
it
a
just
joke that goes along with that, but I'll spare you the joke.
if you want, you can go for it.
Just...
um, but I have it just in case. There some areas I might not be able to spray a good or get a good spray on there, so I have it just in case. It's there in my truck, but I, I do I did buy like a smaller bottle, and that's what I fill up and I put in my I have a torch kit that holds my torches when I'm brazing and all that. And when I'm done, I do a pressure test to check for leaks. I don't carry the big blue container itself. I fill up a miniature one that I found that does a pretty good job of doing the stream also. And I put
Yeah,
that in my tool bag.
we do what we have to because you know what? We don't like to carry heavy stuff around,
No, and
especially up on roofs.
I'm getting older.
And the
I'm
smaller and the
I'm on roofs.
lighter, the better.
Yes, exactly. I'm getting older. I'm on roofs all day long. So like anything I can do to kind of downsize, I do it. But if uh if you ask me what's in that bottle, it's Big Blue every time. I like I said, I tried the others. Doesn't do the micro leak detection as well. Uh, I've had the other aerosols that have that fragrance to them. I don't. I mean, I guess it's nice for some people, but I didn't really care for it.
Do
It
you
didn't
know what?
foam up as much.
Do you know why they put fragrance in there? It's to cover up the nasty smell of the chemicals that are inside it. So
So without it's not a pleasant smell.
no, it'll drive you out of the room.
Oh
Okay, that's
wow.
the reason, and you can't get it NSF certified if you have a fragrance in there because
Mm,
if you use a cleaner, let's say on a food equipment that has fragrance, it would cover up the smell of any rotting meat or product. So
oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, so
Uh,
anything that's got a fragrance to it, throw a red flag right up because it means it's a nasty product, usually toxic by inhalation. So by adding like lemon to it,
yeah.
the lemon smells good. You're
Oh,
taking in toxic vapors because it smells good, and boy, that is people should be to make that kind of stuff should be taken out and shot or hung.
yeah. And some people like were people that I worked with because I've been trying. Well, like I said, we used to have other products, and I would tell them, all right, we're switching over to refrigeration technologies. Try this out, try that out. As I got my guys, uh, their stock on their truck. And I had one of them that didn't want to let that one go. And I'm like, dude, I don't care if it smells like lemon. Please try this one and forget that. But once they try it, they see the foaming action. That's the most important part to it. I didn't know about the whole other hiding or being toxic and hiding the the odor with the lemon scent. I didn't know about that, but now I know.
Now you know.
So okay, let's see.
I see someone in the contact in the was talking about our coil clothing have an odor to it, and the reason for that is because of California VOC requirement. And when you use the coil coating, it's got a lot of acetone in it,
Oh
and we
yeah.
have to use acetone to bring our VOC levels down. So it's California compliant. We can sell it in California. If you can sell it in California, you can sell it anywhere. We can sell it anywhere in the world, in fact.
Mm.
And the best coatings are what we call solvent borne rather than water borne. Water-based coatings take too long to dry, and they don't dry evenly. With a solvent type coating, protective coating, the solvent dries faster, it dries smoother and more evenly, and the only thing you have to tolerate is that oil, that odor from the acetone evaporating off.
Yeah, and he's asking also when he sprays the coil coating, how long should you leave it on to dry?
It depends. It depends on temperature, humidity. If you're in Phoenix, um, 10 to 15 minutes. If you're
Okay.
in Miami, Florida, because of the humidity, an hour. So once the odor's gone, you know that it's cured. It's on there.
Yeah, I've used it a few times because we do. We're like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from the beach. So there are times when we go out there and we put new equipment that we have to coat them. Generally around here, even in those environments, it doesn't take too long to dry. I mean, I honestly, I'll put it on as the last thing, kind of leave it for 15, 20 minutes. I'll check on it and it's pretty much dry at that point.
Yeah, yeah. Acetone evaporates really quickly,
Yeah.
and
So,
acetone is not a VOC. Um,
mhm,
so that's why we have to use it. A lot of solvent, uh, adhesive type products have tons of acetone in it, such as your spray adhesives for your duct liners and stuff. Um,
yeah.
Lots of acetone.
Yeah, you see it all the time. Can you give us a little insight or explanation of how you come up with these products, these chemicals? Are you looking at other things? Are you reverse engineering uh, things? Are you just trying out, seeing what works?
Well, a lot of it is just reflecting on my past history as a refrigeration mechanic, and what I didn't like about certain chemical products, and you separate what you like and what you didn't like, and just kind of expand on the positive aspects uh, of what you want to bring to a product, such as a cleaner, and any product that solves a problem is also a good product to come out with, and people are always striving to come up with products that solve a problem.
Hmm.
Um, what comes to mind is, of course, the Nylog one. It solved a problem. We finally had our own thread sealant for our trade. The aerosol Viper, you didn't have to spray it and run away. Uh, uh, and things like the putty. The putties were around there, but they weren't in our trade. They were in the welding trade, and a lot of the putties were just like um, mud, and it didn't have the right consistency, and didn't really have the good heat protection. Um, and we started using high temperature ceramics, uh, and and moistened it with a fire retardant fluid, and got it to where it had the right consistency. And I was kind of opposed to it first because I figured, well, most people are just going to use a wet rag,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah, and that was going to be our major competitor. And so I watched it. We compared it to wet rag temperatures on pipes and things that we were doing, and go, okay, let's go with it. I don't think it's going to sell well, and make a liar out of me. It just really just took off.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things, you just throw out there, and it's either gonna catch on, or it's gonna die out,
Mhm.
and you got to give it a try.
You never know. I mean,
Yeah.
if you see it as a problem, there's a chance others see it, and they might benefit from it. Like you said. I mean, what you're talking about, wet rag, the wet rag, the Refrigeration Technologies wet rag. I know people get confused. Sometimes it's not a literal wet rag; it's the putty.
Yes.
And I started using that, and it's really good for valves and different things. Um, but I mean, it might not be your everyday use either. I try to use it around valves like sensitive components,
Mm.
anything where I don't trust a actual rag to protect it, especially if it's in a hard to reach place and you're brazing and you kind of need to heat that up a little bit, a little bit much. Uh, so that is a heat absorption putty. I've seen you guys do the
Yeah.
demos. I've seen you guys do the demos holding a piece of pipe, and then you have the putty and you have a torch to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is that the only question I have is I've seen or I've heard Chris on his channel say, and I have the same kind of thinking is once you're done brazing, you should probably take that off right away. I don't know if there's maybe how you see it being used or how you can explain to use the wet rag putty.
Yeah. First of all, the putty will block the heat.
Uh huh.
The one thing it cannot block is the air inside the pipe from being heated up.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. So if you're flowing nitrogen, you just flow the nitrogen to pull the heat away from the component. Okay. But,
Mm-hmm.
not all people use nitrogen, but it'll block the heat. It won't block the heat that builds up in the air inside the tubing. Um, myself, I like to wait until the pipe cools down before I remove the putty.
Okay.
You don't get as many blisters. So
Yeah. Uh,
and with the heat putty, I have to credit my son for really pushing this product and going out in the field and finding it uh, and he's the one that was really really high on it, and I was kind of like on the I don't know if it's going to sell or not, but he proved me wrong. So my son Mike was the one that really turned it into a gold mine.
well, good job, Mike. Um,
Yeah.
so there's no issue leaving it on. Then you just let it cool and you can
No,
take it off.
no.
Okay.
Take it off when the pipes cool down so you don't burn your fingers.
Yeah, I've done that
I
plenty of
mean,
times.
you can pick at it and 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 you get particles that will stick, and then when it cools down, it'll just, it's easier to remove and easier to remove completely.
Does it ever go bad? Like if you put a flame on it directly, like should you throw it out or can you reuse whatever the flame touched?
Yeah, you'll get little charred bits. You just pick those off and throw them away,
Okay.
and then the putty will tend to dry out. So you just take just a tiny little bit of water and get it back to that um, uh, Play-Doh texture. If you overdo it, and you have to pat it down with a rag or a wet towel, but uh, you just get that right consistency. Like he says, a couple drops of water in the can brings it back to life. There you go. Now it's a blue coloration, and it's a light blue coloration, and when that blue coloration turns completely white, it's lost all its uh, properties. Really, it's the fire retardant material liquid in
Mm.
there is completely depleted. So you should replace it if it turns completely white.
Okay, so the color does mean something.
Yes, definitely.
Gotcha. Um, so and we were talking about like your the chemicals and the products that you come up with. How many iterations of these products come out? Are you still constantly like tweaking the formula of the product?
Oh,
Like,
constantly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I subscribe to a lot of chemical journals and on groups on the internet and YouTube where chemists go back and forth, and there's a lot of new ideas being thrown around, formulations being thrown around, and I learn a lot of my chemistry right there, and try and put them into ideas. There's always the manufacturers of raw material the detergent manufacturers are always coming out with a new additive. You plug this into your cleaning formulation, you get uh, 10-20% more soil removal. And so I'm constantly getting samples in and plugging in additives, performance enhancing additives, to see if it makes the cleaner actually work better. And
Mm,
usually 99 of 100 of them, they fail. It's just all hype. And but we have to go through the motions.
sure. Uh, Let me see. Jason had a question. Do you have to deal with the EPA, or do they ever monitor you?
They leave us alone now. They used to get after us in the beginning because we had a lot of different aerosol products, and they're really anal about aerosols. And they come into the warehouse, and I said, "Listen, this is all VOC free, and VOC compliant, and you know." And they go, "Oh, well, we're gonna take samples. We're gonna have it analyzed and let you know." And they came in one time, and they haven't been back since. And
Oh,
it's not
really?
really EPA here in California. It's called CARB, California Air Bureau, and they're always constantly hassling other people, but they don't bother me anymore.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and then I guess EPA showed up in my chat. I don't know what that's about. Um, so you mentioned Mike, your son. So he helps
Yes.
you. Does he help you with some of the products then?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, he's pioneering. Um, the heat shield, the heat blanket. He pioneered that
Yes.
on his own. Yeah, yeah. He came up with some new material, some new heat resisting, flame resistant materials, and worked on that. And then again, I was kind of like, okay, well, another heat blocking product, but there is a need for it. Maybe
Yeah.
didn't know if it was a small need or a large need for something like that. And it turns out I was wrong again. It's starting to get really popular. And you need to think about that. It holds water, so you can really it can really tolerate a lot of heat if it can hold water. You got that extra flame resistance.
Yeah, I messaged the Instagram. I didn't know who ran it, and it's I guess it's Mike, and he's like, "Oh, this is Mike," and then
Yes.
he wanted to send something out, so I was like, "Let me try that new blanket that you guys have because that one looked really interesting." Because I have had others, and I have burned holes through them, and I can't even use them anymore. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in the market for a new heating flame resistant blanket, and that like when I saw it presented, I think I had seen it at the expo or something, and it was genius because like you said, you could wet it to give you a little more tolerance, and that's just a great idea. And like what we use it for is like we work in restaurants a lot. Sometimes I do have to braise kind of close to the floor. I'll lay it down there. A lot of residential guys will use it on the cabinets of the furnace inside when they're braising the line set in there. And also outside, I work in a lot of dry grass, a dry, humid area here, and just put it down so I don't start a fire or anything.
Yeah. Looking back, I was pretty sloppy technician. I just was just trying to be as careful with my flame as possible. If I got a little charring on the wall or on the floor, just
Well,
you know,
I've had those.
cover it up, get a spray
Yeah,
can, paint.
I've had those oops moments too, and
Yeah.
it happens. But I don't know. Social media has really opened up a lot of eyes because I used to, well, when I started, I was a little sloppy too, but then I thought I got really good. Then I got on social media and I saw all these other guys. I'm like, no, those guys are good. So, you learn something just from watching others work, and there's always room for improvement, things like that.
That's what it's all about. It's all about bringing up the level of competence in our trade, getting people to do repairs the correct way. You know, find the leak, fix the leak. Don't put a can of stop leak in there, which I call compressor killer, into your systems, or don't sell it to your customers. Just, just do proper things out there. Um,
That
there's a right way and a wrong way to do things out there, and
it's all
I
about
think
getting.
YouTube's a big help. I was watching a guy I subscribed to on the internet, and he
Mhm.
was out doing a repair and came into got to a customer, and he was low on charge. So he goes to the customer and says, "All right, a leak search is going to cost you this much. New equipment's going to cost you this much, but I got to put a can of this in there, and it'll work or it won't stop your leak." And it was like, oh no. And he
Yeah.
sold the customer on the leak stop, and I went to his channel and I hit the unsubscribe button right away.
Yeah, and I've been there when I get into the trade. Like I didn't have a lot of good people to, or that I was working with, here and there. But I saw the leak stop. I tried it like once or twice, and I was like, this thing doesn't even work. So I just like chucked it. That was
Oh,
actually
we've
going to
we've
be.
we've 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 completely analyzed all the stuff, because that's
Yeah,
one of my jobs is to, if a new product comes out and if it's any good, we want it in our line. We want to be able to sell it too, our version,
yeah,
and maybe we can even make improvements on it. But as far as the stop leaks, the acid neutralizers, no, no.
yeah. That was actually something I had on my board here was additives and other things in the system. Like,
Yeah, leave it on the shelf. Don't put it in your truck. Let it collect dust on the shelf. Yeah, I've
so
been.
you take or you kind of look into the like some of the products, and you'll look at what goes into them, and kind of,
Oh
I
yeah,
guess,
could do a complete
pick.
analysis on them. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can tell by what's inside what it's going to do in a system. So
So why
that's
wouldn't why doesn't leak stop work?
why doesn't it work? It can in certain instances. Basically, what you're doing is you're adding solid material into your system. Okay. In other words, you're adding rocks into your system. Now that stop leak may look liquid, but
Hmm.
it's just solids dissolved in a solvent. When you put it
Okay.
into the system, it becomes incompatible with the refrigerant and the oil, and it falls out. It forms a precipitate, solids. And those solids travel with the oil, not with the refrigerant gas. Come on, guys. It travels with the oil. And of course, the oil will eventually hit a leak path, and those solid little
Oh,
rocks can block,
yeah.
um, partially block the leak path. Usually they can or they don't, but more than often those solid particles come back through your suction line at high velocity and
Yeah.
sandblast your compressor windings, or it accumulates at a TXV or a metering device.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of you should never put anything with solid materials into your systems, and that's what these leak stops are.
Well, that's kind of what I was curious about, because some people use it, like you said, they'll give it as an option, but uh
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of guys that I talk to, like, don't want to use it. Like they but their reasoning is like, you don't want anything in the system other than the refrigerant and the oil. I just never knew why. I didn't know what it was made out of. I didn't know exactly what it did. So, you
yeah.
got.
It's and I don't blame the technicians for this because they've been heavily bombarded with a lot of testimonials and
Yeah.
advertisement, and it used to be one leak stop producer, and now there's 10,000 leak stop producers. I've got a guy that keeps calling me wanting to put Viper on his leak stop, and we can sell it under a Viper. No, 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 thanks. And
Oh man.
it's and it can have a placebo effect too, because I analyzed this one, supposed to be a non-polymer type stop leak, and came in a syringe, and it was nothing but mineral oil. Okay, it
Yeah.
was there was no solids, anything. There was nothing in there that was going to stop a leak. But I would go back onto this HVAC talk board, and guys were saying, "Yeah, we use this non-polymer oil-based leak stop stuff, and it worked." Well, it's a placebo effect. It can't work. It's just you just put mineral oil in your system. I mean, but in their minds, they want it
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah. I
They're
mean,
hoping it works.
there's times
And
that I desperately wanted that to work. Like when I started,
yeah,
I tried it a couple times, and I'm like, it just doesn't work."
yeah.
Somebody asked about the AC renew. That's another one that was, I don't know if it's still popular or not, but like the additives that make your system colder by adding it to your
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So these all these oil enhancing, system enhancing additives, they all originate from the automotive trade.
mm,
Okay, you can go in any auto parts store and look at the air conditioning, where you can buy little cans of refrigerant and stuff, and you'll get refrigerant with stop leak, refrigerant with stop leak, and dye. That's where they all started, and they actually, the OEMs, car manufacturers, came out and said, "Listen, you use any of that stuff in any of our air conditioners, it's going to totally void the warranty. In fact, if you use any of that stuff in our systems, our air conditioning systems, there's no cure but to completely replace every entire component in the car that's part of the air
dang.
conditioning system, everything. Because really, once you put it in a system, how are you going to get it out? It's there
Yeah.
forever."
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
so a lot of these oil enhancers, um, they all seem to come out of this area in Houston,
Uh-oh.
and they private label it out to other companies, and basically what, and I've analyzed a bunch of it, and I don't analyze anymore because I haven't found anything new. The claims are the same, the references are the same, the charts and the graphs, they're still the same, and
Mhm.
but chemically wise, what they do is they put a foaming agent in with some oil, and you inject this miracle oil additive into your system, and it causes the oil to foam. Okay, well,
Mm,
that foam climbs up the sides of your compressor, and it acts as a sound barrier. So immediately you notice that your compressor is quieter.
yeah.
Gee, wow, this stuff really works. Yeah, it's like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Come on. Um, so, and even some OEMs say, well, foam really isn't detrimental to the system, but uh, it's trickery, pretty much.
Yeah.
They claim it returns oil back from your evaporator. Well, the way you return oil back from your evaporator is to put a solvent into your system. The solvent will knock the viscosity of the oil down. The oil will lose viscosity in the evaporator and return back to your compressor. And of course, losing oil viscosity, it's not a good thing. You know, your
No.
compressor depends on a uniform thickness and a certain viscosity to coat all the internal moving parts. And, you know, um, it's basically you know, a side hustle for a lot of these companies. Uh, we'll add this to our line, and, if we sell a bunch, great. If we don't, you know,
Mhm.
what the heck?
Yeah, and just to kind of close on that additive thing, it's like the system was designed a certain way. They're not meant to have all these different products being dumped in. So that's how I kind of see it, and just do it right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if it was good, if it actually worked, it would already be in your system when you bought the product
Yeah, it's
right
because
out of the box.
everybody's looking for that miracle when you really need
Everyone's
to.
looking for efficiency. These OEMs are looking. They're fighting over trying to find ways to get more efficiency out of a system.
Oh yeah.
Lower amp draw, lower head pressure, quieter running compressor. Sure.
All right, John. So I've had you here for over an hour. I don't want to keep you too long. Uh, Let me just close that out with a couple of questions. How many people know your formulas? Are you very open about that with anybody, or is that all just locked away with you?
Oh, uh, I mean, there are no secrets in chemistry because
Oh, okay.
you can take anything and send it to a lab and have it completely analyzed down to the parts per billion.
Gotcha.
So anything can be analyzed. How do I know that? Because I do it to competitors' products. I'll get competitors' products in. If I think it's worth anything, I'll go out and have it analyzed and look at what's inside of it. And usually, it's not nothing earth-shattering, and usually, it's really old-fashioned chemistry. Um, and so nothing is a secret in this trade. No.
And you have plenty of patents out there, right?
No, no, I don't.
No?
I had uh, patents on a couple patents on an acid and moisture test kit that we put out for many years. We have since been having to discontinue it because of supply chain problems. Um,
I think
and
somebody mentioned that they loved that product and they kind of wish you brought it back.
yeah, we just after COVID, we lost a lot of raw material sourcing on that, and it was just becoming a nightmare. Uh, and we just had to. After
Okay.
many years, I had a lot of hours in developing that product and perfecting it, and it was kind of tore my heart out. But I said, okay, let's let it go. But most of my patents have all expired, and I usually don't patent any chemical formulations because that just gives the next guy, that my competitor, a blueprint to build off of. So
Oh.
yeah, yeah. If they want to know what's in one of my products, then let them plop down 20, 30 grand to go have it analyzed. So
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Because
yeah, I'm not going to let them look it up on the internet and get it off a patent.
yeah, I guess I was kind of like what I was trying to ask was like, is it worth patenting, or you rather them go through the hoops to try and get it analyzed and all that?
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
And no one's done it.
No, I
Nylog.
mean,
Nylog's been around since 1993. You'd think there'd be clones out there. I heard of one. There was one in Germany, but we got it, and it was just blue goo. And then there was supposed to be one in Japan because we sell a lot of uh, Nylog for the flare fittings of all everything's in Japan as mini splits, and
yeah.
all throughout Asia, and we sell a lot of Nylog in Asia, and there was supposedly a competitor, but it was just a bottle of POE oil. They didn't know how to build any viscosity or anything to it.
Mm.
Bottle of POE oil, a little bottle of POE oil, it'll work. You know,
Didn't
it's better than putting blue goop or something on there.
oh, definitely. Didn't Subco make one, or have one come out recently?
Now I've heard there is a domestic, but
I can't.
it hasn't run across
I'm
I've
trying.
never seen it. I
I'm trying to
know.
remember. I'm trying to remember what I saw, but I don't know if it was Subco or not. But I think somebody might have been trying to.
Yeah, Chris Stevens said he saw a Nylog knockoff, but he said it was nothing like Nylog.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Can't beat the best. Jason Johnson, if you ever need a patent attorney, his mom works for a patent and trade law firm.
Yeah, I have a firm that we use locally here, and they've defended me in several trademark disputes, and
Like
we've latched onto them.
people coming after you
Yeah, yeah.
for what kind of infringements?
Um, Calgon came after us after using the color blue in a coil cleaner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and uh, we beat the living shit out of them in court. We
Well,
didn't get any
that's
money, but
awesome.
we didn't get any money, but it was just a matter of it had to be done.
Oh
They were
yeah.
trying to rule the planet with blue coil cleaner,
Yep.
and said that we own the trademark for blue coil cleaner, so none of you guys can make blue coil cleaner, and if you do, you're
Come
infringing
after
on
you.
our trademark. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Total Tech.
yeah,
Another.
it took 3 years. It took 3 years, but we got them. We got the patent office to the actual committee got a 9-0 ruling.
Yeah. Total Tech. Another reason not to use Calgon.
Yeah.
All right, John. I appreciate you for coming out. I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Okay.
I think we
I
got most of the
enjoyed.
questions out of the way.
Uh, yeah.
Thank you for making the time to come on. I really genuinely love a lot of your products, and
I really appreciate that, and all the guys on the board here been saying nothing but great stuff, and it really makes me happy. It's like I own this restaurant, and I have this menu, and when you come in, they say, "Oh, just order anything off the menu, you'll love it."
yeah, yeah, you got so many products out there. So I hope everybody who maybe doesn't use them, ask your supply house for Refrigeration Technologies. Look for the Snake, the Viper products. You won't regret it. I love this stuff. Like I said, I work in kitchens. It's a lot of food safety for me, and I love that you took that into consideration. And being an HVAC and refrigeration tech yourself, you understand that, and that's greatly
Yeah,
appreciated.
yeah. And tune into Ashley because she's going to be
Yeah.
doing a lot of the education, and she's a lot easier to look at than me. And when you asked me to come on, I go, don't you know you can get Ashley, and you could probably get twice the amount of guys in the chat and listening and views.
Well, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit, get a good understanding of how these products came to the market, and it's a great story. So I appreciate you for telling that on the podcast. So
It's always a jungle out there, guys. Stay safe.
of course, I'm gonna hit the outro video. I have to stay on. You can stay on, or you can get off if you need to. But uh, bye, everybody in the chat. See you guys next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let me cue the outro.